Hi guys, this is gsm1.com and I'm here with a handset called the Allview X4 Soul Lite for a full review. We're dealing here with a typical mid-ranger with a dual back camera. We've already played with a few Allview X4 Soul devices like the X4 Soul itself, X4 Soul Style, and also the X4 Soul Extreme recently, so quite a few models. This one fits in the mid-range area. It's all about being slim, offering some good selfies, and a pretty nifty gold beige hue here. Priced at around 330 bucks. It's available in black or gold and measures only 7mm in thickness. It's made of metal with a plastic lid at the bottom and the top for the sake of antennas, and just for the sake of comparison, it's about the same thickness as the Huawei Nova 2 Plus. However, it's 0.1mm thicker, so close, and it weighs 150.4 grams, which actually makes it lighter than the Huawei Nova 2 Plus. The metal feels a bit like the plastic, but it's still a phone that's pretty well built. I don't feel like it's gonna break anytime soon. We get a 2.5D glass panel and comfy buttons on the side. However, it's quite a long device, so wielding it with a single hand seems a bit tough. I'm doing it right now, but in the long run, if you want to reach all the areas of the screen, it may be a bit hard for those with smaller hands. Anyway, good grip, quality materials, well built, and aside from the different looking, different color plastic areas at the bottom and top, pretty nice build. Now, on the display front, we get a familiar story, 5.5 inches IPS LCD, Full HD, LTPS, and quite big bezels for a modern panel. Now, if you want to do video, you're going to have to resort to the video app, and that's what the experience looks like. As you can see, we got those big black edges around the image, which are not flattering. We also have wide view angles, I'd say, pretty good brightness and not bad contrast. And let's put all of this to the test, because we actually did, and let's see what came out of that experience. Okay, so here we go. That's the pixel setup under the microscope. This is RGB stripes pixel setup, and we also measure the brightness, achieving 421 lux units, which is not bad at all. It surpasses the HTC U11, which is a flagship, and the Motorola Moto M. Still, it's scored below the Allview X4 Soul and the Sony Xperia XA if you want a comparison. Now, if you're doing setup, there are special options for the screen, stuff like mirror vision, brightness level, adaptive brightness, wallpaper, dynamic lock screen, and so forth. Display size, font size, and mirror vision brings you to a whole new level of options. Contrast, saturation, brightness, sharpness, color, temperature, dynamic contrast, so you can tweak the experience to your liking and turn on those modes I mentioned before. I would leave it on standard because it's quite okay. So a good screen, and now let's see if the rest of the specs are on par with what we showed you so far. When it comes to the CPU, we got a familiar face here, the MediaTek MT6750. It's an octa-core CPU with Cortex A53 cores, and it's accompanied by 3 or 4 GB of RAM and 16 or 32 GB of storage. There's also a microSD card slot, and the UI was quite fluid. Everything seemed to move fast here, so opening up apps and having multiple apps posed zero problems here. And the gaming also checks out, including the typical benchmark Riptide GP Renegade, which we always use because it's, well, one of the best looking games in the Play Store, and we got used to it. And its predecessors were also benchmark games, which we use in our reviews, so you get the idea. Okay, so here we go, playing one quick race. Going here, continue, and here we go. An octa-core CPU with 3 or 4 GB of RAM. By the way, we heard the 4 GB RAM version. So far so good, quite responsive to my actions. Looking swell. We did a trick, no frame rate loss, loving the texture, color, brightness, etc. So no problem here whatsoever. Now it's time to have a look at the benchmarks and see what they've shown. Okay, so screenshots, we got Quadrant, Antutu, all the famous ones. So in Quadrant, we beat the LG G4 and the Sony Xperia XA, but scored below the Sony Xperia Z3, for example. That's Quadrant. Now in Antutu, that's the score we got. And this score places us above the predecessor, the Allview X4 Soul Lite and the Galaxy J5 2016, but below the Nubia N1 and the Moto G4. We also did the one called Gamers Benchmark. I would say a typical result, below 10k points, and it's quite low, to be honest, above the Moto G4 and Moto G5, but below the Huawei P9 Lite and also the P8. One of the things we're mentioning is that in Geekbench 4 in the multi-core test, we were quite close to the Moto Z Play, which is not bad. Now, if you want to talk about the temperature, we achieved a value of 37.2 degrees Celsius after running GFX Bench, and we got a bit of overheating after playing the game you saw before, Riptide, with 42.1 degrees Celsius. So a bit of overheating happens, but it's not exactly major or huge. So performance checks out. Time to talk about the battery. This handset uses a lithium polymer 3000 mAh unit, and it's supposed to offer you something like 500 hours of standby or 1300 hours of talk time. Now let's leave those aside and see how we actually handled the pressure. We achieved 8 hours 37 minutes of continuous HD video playback, which is okay, I would say, for a mid-range phone, which is $300. It beats the Allview P8 Energy Mini and the Sony Xperia Z5 and scores below the Huawei Honor 5X and also the Samsung Galaxy A5 2015 edition. Now we also did a PC Mark test, you know, the continuous usage one, which scored 6 hours 48 minutes, which is acceptable for a mid-ranger, and it beats the Nexus 6P and the Asus Zenfone 3 Deluxe, but scored below the Nokia 3, for example. The charging is also reasonable, 1 hour 59 minutes, superior to the LG AKA and the Xperia Z5. Now if you want to do charging in steps, you reach 3% in 5 minutes, you reach 14% in 15 minutes, and 30% after 30 minutes. And 1 hour puts you at 61%, basically 1% per minute. We have options for the battery, let's see them. Here we go, standby, intelligent power saving, smart cleanup, and battery optimization. I would say rather typical for an Android Nougat device. On the acoustics front, a singular speaker here, which you will not cover with your hand, luckily, and Google Play Music serving as the music player here. As you can see, you also have FM radio, so Play Music with its very own stock equalizer. And now let's actually listen to some tunes. Okay, so as you can probably already tell, it should have been a bit louder. I heard louder phones before. The clarity is okay, the back doesn't vibrate, and I'm happy with the bass and the high notes. Okay, now if you don't believe me, it's time to go to the decibel meter test and see how that one panned out. Go to the gallery here and we got the decibel meter test. The first result is 83.8 decibels, which was achieved at the front and the back of the phone using our typical audio sample. It's below the iPhone 7 Plus and Huawei Nova, but superior to the Huawei P10 flagship. And the other test, the one with Riptide GP Renegade, brought us to 95.3 decibels, which is actually top 3 material, or I would rather go to top 10, not exactly top 3. Anyways, quite good and can beat even some of this year's flagships. Now the headphones that come with this phone are rather typical. They're made of plastic, but they're quite comfy and loud and clear. That's my experience. A good audio for a mid-ranger. Time to talk about those 3 cameras. So one at the front, and this one is an 8 megapixel shooter with fixed focus and f2.0 aperture, and 2 at the back, dual camera with Altek technology. There's a 13 megapixel shooter and a 2 megapixel shooter, helping it with the whole bokeh thing. By the way, the secondary camera has fixed focus. And the main camera uses the Sony IMX258 main sensor from the OnePlus X and Xperia XA. Now the camera app starts up reasonably fast, has a pretty minimalistic user interface, everything is in black and white, and options are typical: HDR, picture-in-picture, face beauty, super photo, normal, panorama, and a bunch of other typical options which I'm sure you saw on many devices. A plus is the ability to capture RAW files, and we also have a sort of electronic image stabilization, plus the bokeh effect, which lets you play with the shallow depth of field. Anyways, I will not bore you with the options. The interesting bit is in the gallery, and we have, as you can well see, quite a few shots, and we also have raw files. Now let's start from the beginning. So it was a very sunny day, but somehow the initial shots featured cold colors. I'm happy with the clarity achieved here. Some blur appears here and there, and if you want to zoom in and start to zoom in, you'll get good details. The initial selfies were underwhelming because of the sun that was beating right on my face, so the other selfies are the ones that matter. I would say that the colors were pretty okay calibrated overall. We also pulled off some pretty good macros, and we played with the focus a bit, and as you can see here, you can actually play with the focus even after the shot. But I felt that at times the bokeh effect did not work like I wanted it to work, because of the fact that it overlapped the image in some areas, and that was a bit annoying. So visiting churches here, taking pretty decent macros of flowers, happy with the color choice. We also took a panorama, which is rather modest, 6256 over 848 pixels. It may look nice, but the resolution was modest. More selfies. This time they're actually a bit better. I'm talking about the skin texture and the color, and even the background was pretty good. Keep in mind it was a very sunny day, and those are the raw files, which the phone takes a while to load. We got more captures here. As you can see, we've taken quite a few. So this one is a pretty good close-up shot with an impressive amount of detail, and you can actually edit it after the fact. And let's also load up this one. For some reason it does not want to zoom into the shots. Anyways, let's go further, and we also took some picture-in-picture frames. These ones, it's a gimmicky feature, but some people might love to see their faces together with the standard picture. More shots available here. Pretty good lighting and exposure, no objections about that. Sometimes the bokeh is a bit hit and miss, and with the raw files you can certainly do some editing gimmicks on the PC. So overall, loving the brightness and the colors, and I have to say that HDR really takes the best out of the shots. So if you're having trouble with the light, it's another pictures, HDR will really solve all of your problems. The fact that the camera is a bit hit and miss with the bokeh is a bit underwhelming, and also the fact that some of the shots taken here weren't as convincing make me place this phone below the Huawei P10 Lite and the P9 Lite 2017, but it can fight the Huawei P9 Lite from last year. So we have quite a few shots. I recommend you check them out in the full text review. I would put this on par with the Motorola Moto M and the Huawei Honor 7, and it beats the HTC Desire 10 Lifestyle, and the bokeh not that impressive. Now let's see how we handled the low light shots, or better said, how the camera handled low light situations. Now I have to say that there was a bit of blur going on here, a very potent blue hue that snuck its way into the sides of the picture. So bluish hue, some yellow, the flash makes things bluer for some reason, poor zoom, and ghostly effects. I would say the brightness was decent, colors not that bad. So for a mid-range phone, I would say it's passable, unimpressive, not ideal to take shots at night using this handset. So I would say it's on par with the lesser known Chinese handsets that are priced at around even $200. Now videos, those are shot in my least favorite format, 3GPP, 30 frames per second, full HD, 70 megapixels, and burnt on account of the very potent sun. However, for 3GPP capture and for a very sunny day, things are not bad. Talking about color and clarity, yes, the images are a bit shaky, but electronic image stabilization, you know. The microphone isn't half bad, and even with moving objects, the camera can hold its own in reasonable manner. And even if you zoom in onto some objects, you'll see again that things are not that bad. For 3GPP, comparing it to other phones that use this format, this is one of the good ones. I would say it can fight the Asus Zenfone 2 models, my iPhone 5, the Huawei Honor 7, and stuff like the Huawei P8 or P8 Lite, or the Sony Xperia XA, for example, but that one films a bit better. That's during the day. Now let's see what's happening during the nighttime. So nighttime camera goes like this. Things register a total drop, so 12 frames per second, 4 mega per second, shaky, blurry, ghostly, burnt, well, not burnt, but very yellow, poor lighting, poor object tracking, so forget about nighttime filming. You're better off filming during the day, which is actually quite good. Okay, so overall this has been it as far as the video and photo capture is concerned. Now I guess it's time to check out the web browser, and the web browser of choice here is good old Chrome. Let's load up gsm.com and you will see that it's not moving very fast. So Chrome on this device, not the fastest in the world, which is confirmed by Sun, Spider and Velamo available here. The input is done via stock keyboard with some swipe action, and now we move to the connectivity. Let's see what we got here. So we got the typical setup. It's a dual SIM phone that comes with Wi-Fi, comes with Bluetooth, comes with a micro USB 2.0 port at the bottom. There is no NFC as far as I know, so Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, there is GPS, there is GLONASS, dual SIM action and 4G LTE of course. The calls were pretty loud and clear, no objections in that area. And now let's see how we did when it comes to the speed test. So we put the 4G and the Wi-Fi to the test and achieved up to 63 mega per second on 4G in downloads and 28 mega per second in upload, and on Wi-Fi we achieved 45 and 25 respectively download and upload. I would say they're reasonable, they don't break records, but they're within the normal limits for a mid-range phone with Android Nougat. Speaking of Android Nougat, we're running on Android 7.0 here. This time Allview has not customized the experience. They decided to not use Visual UI, they're just offering us stock Nougat. Drop down section, notifications and quick settings. There's no longer a drop up section. We got this area, we got this multitasking area with a carousel, and also the ability to split the screen if you want, from what I know. So it involved usually pressing that area, and also having apps that actually support that feature sure helps. Okay, so you're in the calendar, you press this here and voila, you're dealing now with a multitasking, so you can calculate stuff and still watch the calendar. So that's how the split screen thingy is done here. Then you can resume and return to your regular usage. Keep the screen pressed and you are treated to stuff like wallpapers, widgets and settings. Widgets are stock, and also stock are the settings. We got the system UI tuner, status bar, do not disturb, navigation bar, backup and reset. SOS is also a feature here, and intelligent touch, multi-gesture settings, and of course the fingerprint scanner. We got your fingerprint manager here. Continue, secure with a pin, 1 2 3 4. The fingerprint scanner is embedded into this home button, which is actually pressable, and you'll see it in a minute. I'm registering my print right now. Takes a bit of steps, around 8 9 or maybe even 12. That's the setup has been added. Now let's see just how fast you can unlock the device. I would say a bit on the slow side. It's either the animation that's long or the whole process. Now, as far as the pre-installed apps are concerned, we get a stock app drawer and 32 pre-installed apps with 0 gimmicks. I'm talking about the standard package, the Play Suite, File Manager, FM Radio, Drive, Duo, Camera, Chrome and Bitdefender Mobile Security plus Allwatch from Allview. So that's the whole package. A mid-range phone priced at around $300 with a dual camera and attempting its hand at bokeh. Now it's time for the pros and cons. On the pro side, I would say the performance is quite okay. So rather reasonable considering the CPU we have here. Not bad looks for this handset because it's very slim and it looks nice in gold. It's got a pretty solid brightness of the screen, acceptable battery, comfy headphones, pretty nice close-ups taken with the main camera, not bad selfies, and surprisingly good video for 3GPP plus a clean UI that's stock, and you can also take a raw capture and edit it on your PC. On the con side, well, the GPU was not very impressive, a bit of overheating in games and not very loud in real life. I'm talking about the speaker at the bottom. Bokeh doesn't quite make it, poor low light capture, and the fingerprint scanner is slow. This remains a phone for vanity because it takes good selfies, it's a looker, and it's not exactly very expensive, so it's a phone for young people, for the girls, for the vain folks who like to take their shots and maybe play with the bokeh a bit, and also maybe some casual gaming every once in a while. Plus you have stock and clean Android with zero bloatware. This is from gsmo.com. This has been the review of the Allview X4 Soul Lite. Bye bye.